Well, a very good morning and thank you very much for joining us on GBS Morning Extra. Today it is the 16th day of the month of September 2019. My name is Timothy Omondi and today we've got lined up for you quite a number of political story, and being a Monday, we are also going to have our guests in studio who are going to help us discuss on matters politics. That we're talking about the BBI initiative, we're talking about the Punguza Mzigo, and we'll also be looking at the Kibra by-elections, among other political stories. And that will be later when I'll be joined by two of my panelists who will help us discuss further on this matter. But to start us off, we look at stories that made headlines over the weekend, where President Uhuru Kenyatta eulogized former Zimbabwean leader Robert Mugabe as an icon of the continent's liberation struggle and an elderly statesman. Mugabe has been praised by many African leaders. The President Uhuru Kenyatta also said that the father of independent Zimbabwe will be remembered for his contribution to the liberation of many African nations, which benefited from his support in the 1980s and 90s. Uhuru joined other heads of states from Africa and the world who showered praises on Mugabe's legacy on Africa majority liberation, which was echoed. However, history will judge if Mugabe was indeed a blessing to Zimbabwe or a curse.
On behalf of the government and the people of the Republic of Kenya, and on my own behalf, I extend my deepest and most heartfelt condolences to you, Your Excellency, and through you to Mrs. Grace Mugabe, the entire Mugabe family, and to the great people of the Republic of Zimbabwe, following the demise of the father of the nation. Comrade Mugabe will be remembered as a Pan-Africanist and a great icon of African liberation who selflessly dedicated his life to the emancipation of Zimbabwe and Africa. He was a visionary leader and a relentless champion of African dignity. The late President Mugabe has left an indelible mark in the history of Zimbabwe and the African continent at large through his political astuteness and zeal for the economic and political liberation of Africa. The onus is now on us to keep the hope alive and deliver on the dream of a truly free and prosperous Africa. That is the most befitting tribute we can pay to the departed Africans.
Well, back home over the weekend, Deputy President William Ruto told off his critics who, for his frequent tours. The DP insists that he will not be distracted from discharging his mandate. Ruto, who toured Mombasa and Kwale counties on his third day of a tour of the coastal region, where he commissioned several projects. The DP Ruto last visited the region in June when he led a fundraiser in aid of a project to translate the Bible into Giriama language in Kilifi town. That was the Deputy President's 9th visit to the region since the March 9th handshake between President Kenyatta and ODM leader Raila Odinga. During his frequent visits, the DP routinely sought the region's support on matters development, staying away from politics. The visit saw him win the backing of several local MPs who declared to support him in his 2022 presidency bid.
Mimi nimekuja hapa sio kuongea siasa. Nimekuja kuwaambia vile tunaweza kwenda mbele pamoja. Ninyi mnanielewa? Nasikizeni wangwana wa Changamwe. Hata na mimi unaniona nikisimama hapa, wakati mmoja nilikuwa nauza kuku barabarani. Kwa hivyo hakuna kitu ambalo haliwezi kuwezekana. Everything is possible. Nawaomba kwa unyenyekevu, sisi wote tumekubaliana. Hatutaki tena siasa ya chuki. Hatutaki siasa ya migawanyiko. Hatutaki siasa ya mirengo. Hatutaki siasa ya ukabila. Sasa sisi wote ni lazima tuungane pamoja kama watu wa taifa moja na tulenge mambo ya maendeleo ambayo itabadilisha maisha ya wananchi wote wa taifa letu la Kenya. Ama ni aje? Ama ni aje watu wa Changamwe?
Now, still on matters politics, nominated Member of Parliament Maina Kamanda, while attending another church service in a church at AIPCA in Nanyuki, Laikipia County, seemed to be pushing for the BBI initiative and dismissing the Punguza Mzigo initiative. Kamanda has recently hit headlines with his confrontation with the leader of the leaders from the Mount Kenya region allied to the Deputy President William Ruto's Tanga faction.
Nasemekana ya punguza mzigo na nini? Sisi kwetu huko Nyandarua raia wote waliikataa. Kirinyaga ilikataliwa. Na ninafikia karibu Central yote hakuna mahali itakuwa na mambo ya punguza mzigo. Sisi tunagoja BBI ikuje tuisome, tusomeshe watu yetu, ndio dakika ya mwisho tukubaliane kama ina sura ambayo itasaidia Kenya yetu.
Now, still on that politics, the Kiharu Member of Parliament Ndindi Nyoro has apologized for the last Sunday's chaos at Gitua Catholic Church. The MP, who is allied to the Tanga Jubilee Group, disagreed with Kieleko team led by nominated Member of Parliament Maina Kamanda. The legislator, who was at Igwe ACK Church a few meters from Gitui Catholic Church on Sunday, said he regretted being caught in the mix. On behalf of all political class, Mr. Nyoro said he was sorry following the drama which culminated in his arrest on September the 9th.
But I want to say this to the entire country, and especially the people of Kiharu. What happened on Sunday here in Gitui ni kitu ambayo sitataka ifanyike pahali kwingine popote. It is regrettable na ni kitu ambayo si kitu iko na maana hata kidogo. Ningetaka kusema that I regret and I apologize to the entire Catholic Church.
Well, moving on to a story that has been developing and is still developing. Police finally found the body of missing Dutch tycoon Tob Cohen in a septic tank within his compound in Kitisuri, Nairobi. According to the Director of Criminal Investigations, Boss George Kinoti, the late Cohen's body was found on Friday afternoon dumped in an underground water tank in the compound. Sarah Wairimu, the suspect in the murder of her husband Tob Cohen, through her lawyer Philip Murgol, claimed that the body could have been planted in her compound to frame her. Sarah Wairimu is the key suspect in the murder of Tob Cohen.
The compound has been a crime scene for the last 3 days, where the police have had absolute control. No one has been allowed here except with their permission. Yeah. And before that, Wairimu has been in custody for the last 19 to 20 days. Sure. 16? 19 on Monday, so 16 days. So she only comes here, she's escorted to the bathroom and leaves. So about 2 days ago, the police came and they did a sweep of the house. And the following day they also came and they did another sweep and they finished. And then what they did is they looked at the garden and they said, we'll leave this for tomorrow. We'll leave this and this in the garden for tomorrow. and so we thought we were coming back the following day. Instead of coming back, they took Wairimu to court, and so we didn't come back. Yesterday we were all in court, most of you. Today at about 2:40, we contacted the gateman and he said the police had come here. So we rushed here and we found the police already working in the corner, by themselves, without Wairimu, without us. And there's a water tank or a sewage system at the very corner, and there was some very fresh cement covering the manhole cover. And they all knew that that's what they wanted to dig. So they dug it, they removed the cement, they removed the manhole cover, and when they removed the manhole cover, they all had torches, and they peeped in, and there was something wrapped like a human body.
It is a sad day for us that, humanly speaking, what we have been investigating, a matter which, from our criminal intelligence, we knew one of us could have left us out of the act of other people. And from the onset, when this matter was reported to us, we immediately, or rather I immediately ordered this place to be preserved as a scene of crime. It is almost 2 months since we declared this place a scene of crime. From our criminal intelligence, we knew the reasons why. Instinctively, we had to declare this place very fast a scene of crime. From that time, there are things which we have been doing. I may not actually give in details. Up to date, we never wanted to give any chance whatsoever. We winded our nets as much as we could to make sure that this crime is not covered at all. Always we know, as investigators start, there is no perfect crime. Aspect always, in a way, to a keen detective is somehow left unspotted. That aspect which we actually detect at the scene of crime, it opened for us the whole world. Today, true to our criminal intelligence, our instinct as detectives, it's unfortunate. I have no one, I don't know how to describe that. When we have lost one of us, it's unfortunate. We have discovered the body of the missing Mr. Cohen, and even the members of the family have already identified the body. It is positive. Cohen was murdered in his own residence. It is a gruesome murder. They took their time to kill innocent Cohen.
Well, indeed, a very controversial issue there, with the defense attorney Philip Mulgore insisting that there are other issues that are not clear in that case. And as you heard from him, he held a press conference on the very day that, on Friday actually, after the body was found, he held a press conference poking holes on the investigation team and the evidence that the government or the DCI has, and promised to meet them in court and challenge the evidence. Moving on now across borders, on mission to Somalia, Emergency Relief Coordinator Mark Lowcock and senior officials from the World Bank and the United Nations Peace Building Office delegation visited Baidoa, where nearly 360,000 people who fled slow onset drought, terrorist attacks and armed conflict over the past 3 years live in 400 sites in and around the town. At Baidoa's Dr. Ayub Stadium, rehabilitated as part of the Midnimo Peace Building Project, a soccer match was played between members of the host community and a team of internally displaced persons. The Midnimo project brings together humanitarian development and peace-building elements to address the impact of displacement in Baidoa. Over the past 30 years, drought have become more intense and frequent in Somalia, which also faces recurrent flooding during the rainy seasons. Much of Somalia's infrastructure is depleted as a result of the decades of long conflict and lack of investment, which further undermines the country's ability to cope.
Come to Baidoa in south-central Somalia today. This is a part of the country which traditionally has been the epicenter of famines and food security crises. Right now, it's one of the biggest places which people have fled to, being displaced by the conflict. And we've got the humanitarian response, providing the life-saving food, medicines, other support, accommodation. But we've also got work on stabilization and recovery and resilience funded by the UN's Peacebuilding Fund.
We came together, we discussed the needs of the town. After discussing the needs of the town, we also prioritized. After prioritizing, then the project took 5 activities, building, helping this playground, a police station, 2 roads, and a bridge in the town.
Today we've just met young men who are building better relations in their communities through the medium of soccer. We've had the medal ceremony and the trophy ceremony for the local teams, with the IDP team playing against the host community team.
The rehabilitation of this stadium has been particularly important to provide an opportunity for young people from different communities to build peace by playing sports. We were very much moved by the stories that led to the discussions to identify this particular stadium, which has a long history in Baidoa. This is where the big soccer matches were played in the past. And so rebuilding the future through the participation of youth in peace-building activities such as this is particularly important for us to be supportive of.
Well, from Somalia we go down south, where the president of South Africa, Cyril Ramaphosa, has apologized for the recent xenophobic attacks in his country. He was addressing mourners during the funeral service of former Zimbabwean leader Robert Mugabe on Saturday afternoon. This follows heckling by some mourners. As the president was invited to make an address, Ramaphosa condemned the recent attacks, noting that South Africans are not xenophobic, expressing his government's commitment to promote social cohesion. This was after crowds booed and jeered at him, an apparent reaction to the xenophobic violence across South Africa in the last month.
We would like to say to the people of Zimbabwe, in the past 2 weeks, we as South Africans have been going through a challenging period. We have had acts of violence erupting in some parts of our country, some of which was directed at nationals from other African countries. This has led, as I can hear you are responding to the deaths and injuries of a number of people, some of whom were nationals from other countries, and the majority were South Africans. I stand before you as a fellow African to express my regret and to apologize for what has happened in our country. President Mugabe was a friend of the African National Congress and the people of South Africa, and he stood by us during our darkest hour. He was unwavering in his support for our liberation struggle. Under his leadership, Zimbabwe and especially ZANU-PF gave both moral and material support to us at a time when our leadership was forced into exile and our people were suffering under the yoke of apartheid. When South Africa became a democracy.
Well, indeed, the situation in South Africa has continued to grow worse, and we hope that the government of South Africa can do something. There are also reports that the South African government has sent envoys to all African countries that have been affected by the xenophobic attacks in the country to try and explain the situation, but also assure the other governments that the South African government is working day and night to make sure that the attacks do not continue and that investments by foreign or Africans who are investing in South Africa and living there are safe. Well, now we move on to the Middle East, where drone attacks claimed by the Yemen's Houthi rebels have caused fires at two major facilities run by the Saudi Aramco, Saudi Arabia's state-owned oil giant. Citing an Interior Ministry spokesperson, the official Saudi press agency said on Saturday that the blazes at the facilities in Abqaiq, home to the country's largest oil processing plant, and Kurais, were under control. The drone strike on Saudi Arabia's largest Aramco oil plant have slashed the world's supply of oil by 5% overnight. Correspondents say that they could have a significant impact on the world oil prices. The main Saudi stock exchange plummeted 3% on opening on Sunday before recovering. But while Houthi rebels and Yemen have claimed responsibility, the UN has pointed the finger at Iran for the attack. U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo has blamed the Iran for Saturday's drone attack on Saudi's oil facilities. He dismissed a claim by the Yemenis that Iran-backed Houthi rebels that they had attacked the two facilities run by state-owned company Aramco. Saudi Arabia's energy minister said that the strike had reduced the crude oil production by 5.7 million barrels a day, about half of the kingdom's output. The ministry did not identify the sources of the attack and said that the investigations were ongoing. It did not specify if there were any casualties or whether operations at the two facilities had been affected. Well, that story from the Middle East brings us to the end of our first segment of this Morning Extra. We now take a short break. Please do remember to keep the conversation going. You can do that through our hashtag GBS Morning Extra. You can also keep the conversation going on our Twitter handles. That is Kenya GBS. Well, we take a short break now. When we come back, I have with me, as I promised earlier, two panelists who will help us discuss the state of the politics in Kenya today. Let's take a break. We'll be right back.